All right, guys, welcome to the podcast, and we move into the top 20 of our all-time global schools top 50. So let's get right into it. 20th place, we have Wellington College from New Zealand. You can see in the early days, 13th place, great ranking, a lot of history at the school. Fell away a bit in the 1990s, made the slight comeback in the 2000s, and currently this decade, the 27th best school. Total points, 532.64. Some notable alumni include Dane Coles, Lima Sopuwaga, and Mark Ellis. Now, Mark Ellis, you may remember, scored those 6 tries against Japan in the 1995 World Cup. Then moving on to 19th place, we have Marist College Ashgrove from Australia. And you can see in the early days, not too bad, and in the 90s, it was like a dream team, so to speak. Second place during the 1990s, so you would consider them the second best school during this period. 2000s dropped down a bit, and he dropped down even further in the 2010s, and I think that shows in their results as well. I can't remember the exact tournament they play in, but I think they play with I think they play in the same league as St. Edmunds. I could be wrong, but I know that the league that they do play in, they haven't been as dominant as they once were. They were absolutely dominant in the 80s and 90s, for example, but they haven't been for a while. And you can see the alumni. I mean, they call him Nobody, John Eales. Nobody's perfect. I mean, one of the best locks of all time. You got Daniel Herbert and Anthony Herbert. Daniel Herbert was a fantastic centre as well. So they've produced a lot of great Australian players. Marist College, Ashgrove. So 535.83 points, 19th place. In 18th place, we have the King's School Parramatta. And you can see history was okay. And then the 2000s, they showed they were quite strong. And in the 2010s, currently this decade, the 23rd best school. Total score 536.69 points. And notable alumni include Sterling Mortlock, Ben Robinson, and Dean Mum. Then in 17th place, we have Sacred Heart from New Zealand. You can see a very, very rich history with the school. Finished 4th place overall in the early days. Then just sort of lost their way a little bit. I think Paul Boys played them on their tour to New Zealand and beat them pretty comfortably as well. So probably not the force they once were, but historically a very, very strong school. And I mean, look at that. They produced Sean Fitzpatrick. I mean, that guy was one of the best hookers of all time. Fantastic player. Xavier Rush as well, and obviously Jordan Payne, some other notable alumni. So 574.04 points, 17th overall, Sacred Heart from New Zealand. Then in 16th place, we have the Southport School from Australia. You can see early days, not much history. 90s they come up a bit, but it's this sort of century where they've really made their mark, and currently the 3rd best team of this decade. So overall points 567.64, which is quite a comfortable gap over Sacred Heart. And some notable alumni include Nathan Gray, Nathan Sharp, and Scott Higginbottom. Then 15th place, we have Millfield School from England, and they've been pretty consistent throughout, a lot of history. This decade, 13th best school in the world, in my opinion. Total points 575.16, so still pretty tight between them and Southport. But I mean, if you take a look at that alumni, you just see 2 names there, and anyone that's got an ounce of rugby knowledge knows those 2 names. I mean, Gareth Edwards and JPR Williams are 2 of the all-time great players. I mean, Gareth Edwards probably the best scrum off of all time. I don't think you'll get much argument over there. Then in 14th place, we have St. Joseph's Gregory Terrace from Australia. And you can see very much a historical school, 9th place over there. Lost their way in the 90s a bit, 2000s came up a bit. So certainly a school that's trading on past glories more, like a lot of the other schools. And this decade, they're currently the 40th best school. So 579.14 points. Just a little gap over Millfield, will probably overtake them in this coming year, looks like. And some notable alumni include Michael Liner, one of the best flyers of all time. Then you got Mark Chisholm and Tony Shaw. Tony Shaw, an Australian legend. Then in 13th place, we have Otago boys from New Zealand. And you can see that in the early days, average school in the 2000s, they just, came up quite a lot. And that's very much to do with their alumni. That generation is just a great generation of rugby players for them. This decade, 32nd best school, so lost their way, but this decade. But in terms of their alumni, they got a White Crockett, the GOAT, Byron Kelleher, and Charles Saxton. And don't even argue with me about the GOAT. Everybody knows who the GOAT is. I'm South African. I love my country. I love my players, but there's only one GOAT, and it's not Brian fucking O'Driscoll either. Anyway, let's move on to 12th place. Presentation Brothers from Ireland. And we can see that early days, pretty average. And in the 2000s, they came up a lot. Their schoolboy team of the 1990s resulted in the 2000s being fantastic, and they were ranked 4th overall in the 2000s. This decade, they ranked 12th. So very, very strong modern-day school. Total points 607.63, so they're very well ahead of Otago Boys, for example, and we can probably expect them to go up a little bit. The alumni, Declan Kidney, obviously an ex-coach, and then Peter Stringer and Ronan O'Gara. Ronan O'Gara and Peter Stringer generated a lot of points for them in the 2000s. And it'll be interesting for you guys to know that Peter Stringer and Ronan O'Gara played in the same first team. So they played all the way from first team level up to international level as a halfback pairing. Just thought that'd be some interesting news for those of you who care. And then in 11th place, we got Paul Boys from South Africa. And you can see they got a very, very strong history. 90s, they dropped their way a bit. The 2000s, they dropped their way a bit. And then the 2010s, this decade, 16th best school. And they've, for those of you that don't know, and for recent times, I think it is 2015, 2016, and 2017, they were unbeaten in South Africa. So what you'll probably find is that there are going to be a hell of a lot more Paul Boys players playing for the Springboks in the coming decade. And a lot of those points will be allocated in the 2020s. So you can expect Paul Boys to come, probably crack into the top 10 in the next couple of years, because, they've got some very, very special players in this current generation that are coming through that I've got no doubt will become Springboks. So that'll probably lift them up quite a bit. And don't be surprised to see them amongst the top 5, come the 2020s. So 628.49 points, which means pretty comfortable lead over Presentation Brothers. And I think, like I said, I think their points will go up quite a lot. And some notable alumni include one of the best wings of all time, Coral du Plessis, this boy Lowe, a Springbok legend. Corné Krige, a legend for the wrong reasons. I don't think he was a bad player at all. I liked him as a player, but just, wrong place, wrong time. He was there during that whole Australia debacle. It wasn't a great time for South African rugby. So, unfortunately, play with a lot of heart, strong leadership, just during a really shitty period for South African rugby. And then, of course, Thomas du Toit is one of the latest players to come through their production line. Giant prop, early 20s. Definitely think he has a great future. All right, guys. Well, this is the end of the 20 to 11th place video. Let me know what your thoughts are. We're going to obviously go through the final 10 in the next video. So who do you think is going to be ranked number 1? Why don't you try and guess the top 3? Should be quite interesting. And let me know your comments. Give me your honest feedback. What do you think of the system? What do you think of the rankings so far? Do you think there's anyone I'm missing so far that might not be in the top 10? Always interested to hear from you. And don't forget to click that subscribe button and like this video. And have a great week further as always. Cheers, guys. Bye.